You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. My name is Arya Whitner, and this is your NXT audio update for Wednesday, October 5, 2016. This was an episode of NXT this week. I guess I could say that every week, but this one, we had some good stuff this week. It started off the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. The very first match kicked off the show, and that match was the former Global Force Wrestling Tag Team Champions, the Bollywood Boys, versus the undefeated Authors of Pain. I don't know how to tell you how you find people out there, but the Bollywood Boys did not break the undefeated streak of the AOP. Akam and Razor made very short work of them, finishing them off with a combination side Russian leg sweep clothesline, which is now called The Last Chapter. And they will take on, now that the brackets were released earlier today, the Authors of Pain will face the winner of the match between No Way Jose and Rich Swann versus Tony Nese and Drew Gulak. I think we can all assume who will win that, but we don't know for sure. But I'd assume Jose and Swann will probably win, and probably do a job in the quarterfinals. But we'll see. Speaking of Rich Swann, up next, Rich Swann took on Patrick Clark. It was the CWC versus Tough Enough, as Clark was one of the people in last year's Tough Enough revival. He was been on TV a few times already, wearing an Apollo Creed like getup with the red, white, and blue sweatpants and gear. However, he got rid of all that and is now wearing long black tights and the Austin Powers frilly Dickie. Clark held up his side of the match and didn't look totally out of place here, but between the two of them, it's obvious the right person is on Raw right now, and the right person won. Swann won with a super kick and a handstand into a standing moonsault, and I just want to point out I really do love Rich Swann's theme music. Next up, we saw video of the Cedric Alexander versus Andrade Cien Almas match from a few weeks ago, and how it leads to tonight, where the two of them will team up in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic to do battle with the reigning NXT Tag Team Champions, The Revival. Last week, Liv Morgan was getting checked on in the trainer's room after she got whooped by Asuka when Peyton, Royce, and Billy Kay walked up and made fun of her before walking away. Peyton Royce was out next, going one-on-one with the debuting Danielle Tamela. No, I said Tamela, not Carmella, not Kamala, Tamela. Peyton was with Billy Kay, of all people, so WWE and NXT has taken the two Australian women and stuck them together as a duo. Carmella was both a dancer and a cheerleader before trying out at the Performance Center. Carmella's a little shorter, a little thicker, beautiful woman, but she had a much lower center of gravity, and that made her fall a little bit harder when Royce kicked her in the face. And I said Royce, and that was a total accident. It's Royce. This was a very basic match. The fans got behind Carmella when she's being held in a chin lock, but this was not her night, as Royce won with a knee to the side of the head and a fisherman suplex. The most notable part of the match was Tom Phillips identified the fisherman suplex as a Northern Light suplex, and Corey Graves mumbled that Mauro Ranallo wouldn't have screwed that up. Backstage, Bobby Roode and Ty Dillinger cut a promo. To be more specific, Roode cut the promo, not allowing Dillinger to talk at first, and then when Dillinger started talking, Roode did his glorious pose and made you distracted from having to watch him. Dan Mesa was out next for his debut. In case you forget, he's the guy that I compared to having Kurt Hawkins' head on Rob Terry's body. I must say that when he's not standing still and flexing, Dan Mesa is not the freakishly ripped kind of person like Rob Terry. So he's not quite that overly muscular, I guess. However, I don't want to make assumptions about what Dan Mesa did to get his physique. However, it should be noted that basically his entire body was covered in acne, and you can just make your own assumptions from there. We were spared from actually seeing Dan Mesa debut, as Samoa Joe ran out and beat the holy living crap out of Mesa, much to the fans' delight. I should point out at first, all you saw was Mesa standing in the ring posing, and behind him you could see the fans looking off to the side and laughing, and we soon found out why they were looking off to the side and laughing, as Joe ran in and beat the crap out of him. Not that I was looking majorly forward to this debut, but it definitely seems weird that they built it up for weeks just for Mesa to be a guy to be attacked and taken out by Joe in 30 seconds. Anyway, Joe cut the promo he's cut every week on Mr. Regal, saying that bring him Nakamura or bring him the championship, and growling into the camera that Regal has one more week to make a decision. No Way Jose and Rich Swann cut a promo saying that they are a team because the NXT Universe wanted them to be partners, and they ended their promo by singing, "Can you handle this? No Way Jose." That might have been annoying if they kept it up. Sanity is finally coming next week. Here's what I know about Sanity. They're a tag team because they're in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. What is Sanity? Who is Sanity? Where is Sanity? I don't know. We'll find out next week. Finally, main event time. NXT Tag Team Champions The Revival versus Cedric Alexander and Andrade Cien Almas in a first-round match in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. Alexander and Almas work good together. They're really good individual wrestlers, but the Revival is a really good tag team. It was actually last year in the Dusty Classic that the Revival started getting their push, making it all the way to the semifinals before losing to Samoa Joe and Finn Balor. Revival got the heat on Almas, specifically targeting his left shoulder. Dash and Dawson, and I said this before, said similar things before, but they've really perfected that 80s tag team gimmick, but they're not doing it in a gimmicky way, if that makes sense. They are a modern tag team from 2016 that uses 80s psychology in their matches, which makes them completely different from everybody else because nobody else does that. Alexander got the hot tag and single-handedly took out both men, and honestly probably would have fared much better in this match if it was a 2-on-1 handicap match. However, it was a tag match, and Almas turned out to be more of a hindrance than a help. At the end of the day, the champs picked up the win, pinning Alexander with the Shatter Machine. The Revival will now face the winners of the match between Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa versus Ho Ho Lun and Bin Wang. I don't know if that match has been taped, and I promise this is not an intentional spoiler. However, I think it's safe to assume that Gargano and Ciampa will have won that match and will be facing the Revival. I could be wrong, but something tells me I won't be. After the match, Almas snapped, finally turning heel by attacking Alexander. I guess he heard what I said before I said it, and decided to take his aggressions out on Cedric. Almas dropped Alexander face first on the ring steps before walking out to a chorus of boos. So that does it for this week. Next week, Sanity debuts, Joe gets his answer from Mr. Regal, and the Dusty Rhodes Classic continues. Thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you again in 7 days.